Let's go.
You go.
I will go then. So, hello out there, Packer Nation. This is Absolute Packer Podcast number 37. We're going to try and find a name for it, I think, more at the end. I'm sure it will be very uplifting, like sunshine, unicorns type thing. Not. So we're here today to basically mark the ostensibly the end of the Packers season. When you talk about playoffs or going into the postseason, as they fall to the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, 24-17. I myself saw 3/4 of this game, to be totally honest, and then the fourth quarter I didn't even watch. My daughter had some school stuff to do, and she said she needs some help. And at the end of the third quarter, I said, you know what? We're going to do that. So I shut off the TV and didn't even watch the fourth quarter, which, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about where I'm at with the team in terms of just enthusiasm and what I'm going to see, all that kind of stuff. I had no qualms completely turning off the TV, knowing that, Rodgers, is he going to come back with some miraculous, fourth quarter comeback? No, that was not going to happen. The team, what's interesting is they have this, this narrative. You guys have probably noticed it too, but they start out relatively fast. They might be not going to get a touchdown first drive every time, but they start out when they have Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones both collectively engaged in the offense. They generally do pretty well. I think they had a 3-and-out, and then they had 2 touchdowns in a row. And then the narrative goes to McCarthy usually gets, puts Jones on the bench for whatever reason. And then the offense just couldn't get its way out of a paper bag, which still, with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, to this day, it absolutely stuns me how difficult it is for this offense to get yards. Every time I see it, I can't believe it's true. But here it is. Now they're injured, and they came into this game with a few injuries, and they left with a few too. But the team collectively looked pretty bad everywhere. There was another special teams blunder, Tramon Williams fumble. I mean, the repeating narrative is they start fast, the offense goes away, and then the team basically just crumbles in the last quarter and just goes away. And that, to me, is a mark of coaching.
Right. And I don't think it should be a shock to anybody anymore. I mean, we're 11 games in. The narrative has not changed. I mean, if people are seriously, I'm the eternal optimist. But if we are seriously sitting here at 4-6-1 and we're going through the playoff scenarios, you're literally crazy. Because right now, just think about this. We are in, supposed we're not eliminated. I think we're like a 3 to 15% chance of possibly getting in, but obviously would have to win out and get 9 wins. But we lose tiebreakers now because we've lost to the following teams. We lost to Minnesota. We've lost to Seattle. We've lost to Washington. So we've lost all tie-breaking possibilities there. That's our competition because the Saints, the Rams, the Bears, most likely, the Cowboys are iffy. But I mean, those top 3 teams right there are not going to go anywhere. They're probably going to be there. And then you're talking about the last 2, 3 maybe that are still battling for something, but we can't compete with any of them because we've lost to the most of them. And
6 straight losses on the road. I can't believe I'm saying that. But
it's the first time since 1978 we've lost 6 games on the road in a row.
Yeah, that's not good company to be in. Back then, I know that the power structure was somewhat similar to the quadrilateral authority that we have today, though. You had a lot of people meddling in affairs they shouldn't be. So it looks like in some ways, we're returning to the doldrums of how there's just, you can just sense that there is something very wrong with the whole damn thing. You know what I mean?
Well, the players are obviously, I think they're starting to pick up on things that, there's going to be some changes here in the off season because when you watch them on the sidelines, they aren't commingling. They aren't like looking rambunctiously happy that they're there. There's just an obvious presence that haven't given up, but they just know that
and some of them are even making, pot shots in the Tramon Williams the other day made a pot shot in the press conference, saying, why didn't you go for it on 4th and 2? I mean, some of that stuff is coming out more passive aggressively in the media too, which it's teetering on, losing the locker room, if they haven't already. So
I think the locker room was essentially lost after the Ram game. The Ty Montgomery whole situation, I think that kind of divided things. It didn't conquer anything, that's for sure, but it definitely divided things. And I think from then they've been on recovery mode. And with the, losing 3 out of the last 4 games, it's been trickle effect after trickle effect. It's been, punch after punch, and they're just getting sucker punched continuously. And there's just a point in time when, players do just say, what else do I have to give? Because everything I'm giving is not successful or not turning things around. So, it's a very negative tone there. Even Aaron Rodgers in years past, in 2016, we're sitting there at 4-6, and very reminiscent record, but we're sitting there at 4-6, and he's like, we can run the table. And what happens? They run the table and they get into the playoffs. But this year, there is no sign that they have the ability to do that. They have no sign that even Aaron Rodgers believes in that, which tells me that he doesn't believe in this team anymore. And it has to do with the coaching staff. It has to do with, the team that is put around him. He's just like, he's got his hands up and he's surrendering, and he's just waiting for somebody to cuff him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like waiting for the inevitable. It's interesting what I've seen on the blogosphere and even some of the national pundits. There's almost 2 sides when it comes to Rodgers, and it is, those who absolutely adore him. He can do no wrong. And he is just surrounded with junk. And that includes coaches and players. And then there is the other half who, they don't think that they're not giving sunshine and roses to Rodgers, but they think it's more of a collective thing where could be, coaching, Rodgers not playing well, all these other things in between. I mean, you have bad coaching on special teams, all these things, injuries. I don't know where I fall under, because it's just Rodgers is a hard guy to break down, because he is supremely talented, but he's doing stuff right now that is just like high school bush league stuff. I mean, he's throwing balls in the dirt. I've never seen him do that. If you have guys, if the let's say the problem for sure is that Rodgers is a great player surrounded with shit. Well, you still don't throw the ball in the dirt. You still don't overthrow 2 touchdowns, to Davante Adams. That's where I'm just kind of lost. And again, there is that camp where people are like, look, Rodgers is fine. Rodgers, don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. He's still the greatest ever. He's just surrounded by such horrible talent, coaching and player-wise. I just don't know. I really don't know.
There's truth to all of that. I mean, that's all that is true. Here's the issue that I have. And I think I've said this multiple times to you guys. I've said it on our APP Facebook page. He just got a shit ton of money this offseason, literally $100 million in his pocket.
Yep.
And
that's only like $50 million after taxes. Now, come on.
Shut up, Andy. Over 6 years now, he's going to be accounting for $33.5 million in average salary per year, which the salary cap is right around $178 million. Put that math together, it is not a pretty picture. So, but what you're doing when you're giving a guy that much money is you're essentially saying, we're going to expect you to perform at a great level, and anything less than that is unacceptable. Right now, he's not performing at a great level. They aren't making him accountable. So it's not, the only people that are holding them accountable are us, the fans. Us at APP, especially me. I love the guy. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But this year it's a glistening moment here. It's a turning time in his career. Does he get better from this year, or does he still continue to go downhill? That's going to be the telltale sign of what kind of a player he is. Because right now I'm seeing him. He's on the sidelines and he's sitting on the bench and he looks dejected. Now, if you
on the field, he does too. Let's call it what it is.
In both scenarios, he does. In both scenarios, he does. But you watch good players and you watch leaders. They aren't sitting on the bench sulking or pouting or doing anything like that. They are proactive in trying to recover any success that they previously had. I don't see that here. And that's a problem, because now we've just paid this guy so much money and we're saying you're the leader of this team. And I'm sorry, a leader does not, I'm not saying he's given up. And I know there's people out there that are saying that he's purposely tanking. I think that's just a bunch of bullshit. But I think purposely he's at a point where he's given up on the coaching staff. I think he's purposely, he's like, I don't know what else I can do humanly possible beyond my, imaginable accomplishments and capabilities. There's nothing else I can do. And but the problem with that, though, is that there's always time for self-reflection. There's always time to look back and say, what could I do better to make myself a better person and in this case, a better player? And I don't feel like he's actually self-reflecting and doing that. And that's an integral part of being a leader, is first you self-analyze and you go over how you think you are doing. And if you see any negatives, you iron those things out. He is not doing that. I don't see it. If he is, then I apologize. But, he is wholly accountable for what's going on with the offense, because he's the ringleader. He is leading this offense into nothing. Statistically, they're doing well. But, these third down it used to be third down and long earlier in the year. Now it's becoming third and short, and it's getting worse because
it's pathetic.
There was one play early in the game yesterday, 3rd and 4. He took a sack. He was starting to go off the right tackle between the right guard, and he got sacked by 2 Viking defenders. He had Jimmy Graham wide open, coming over the middle, and I don't know why he didn't throw it to him, but this has been a consistent trend this year, is that his inability to pull the trigger when he needs to pull the trigger, because his team they're literally their back is against the wall. And now their back isn't against the wall. They're just laying down dead, So, there is plenty of criticism to go there. The apologists out there that keep on defending him need to stop that bullshit, because what's going to happen is you're going to build his ego so high that we're going to have a Brett Favre situation here, and he's going to think that he's the whole franchise, and then we're stuck. And I don't think anybody liked how the Brett Favre saga turned out. And I don't think anybody would want to go through that again. Because this one could be even uglier.
Yeah, I hear you. Here's a question for you then. And in all seriousness, how does the team hold Rodgers accountable? Not fans.
Right. First off, you need leaders. If we had guys like Julius Peppers still here, I think that there would be a hard conversation.
He's still playing awesome. You see him the other day? He's like 40 years old, and he was like in coverage, and he like intercepted a ball.
Right, and he's a free agent. He's a free agent too, so keep that in mind. But there are guys that are just true leaders of every franchise, and I just don't see that guy here. And what that leader would do is he would take him to the side and say, "Hey, Brett," or "Hey, Aaron, what do we need to do here?" What do we need to do? There's nobody in this team that's a leader. Mike Daniels was looking like he was going to be that guy, but I don't know what happened there. He kind of quieted off a little bit, and he's gone off into the sunset. Kenny Clark is a leader by example. He's more of a guy that goes out and actually does it. I don't think he's a vocal type guy, so I don't think the leadership's going to come from him. So it really rests and lies on guys like Corey Linsley and David Bakhtiari, who need to actually step up and say, man, what are you doing? We're here to help you. We're trying to help you, but you're not helping yourself, and you're not helping this team. So that's the problem right now, is the team does not have leadership on the field. The coaching staff, Mike McCarthy is literally scared. I think personally he's literally scared to give this team an earful. I don't know.
He's scared of doing that to Rodgers.
Right. Did you hear that story yesterday from Will Blackman?
Yeah, I saw that thread where he was Twitter feed where he said in 2008 when they would go on the road, he'd go to shitty hotels, and then the team was like, "Why do we keep going to these crappy hotels?" And he's like, "You know what? Win a game, and then you can go to a nice hotel."
Right. Awesome. That was Mike McCarthy's way of trying to get a point across to his team. Is that happening right now? I don't know, but I really don't think so because, look at our next opponent, the Arizona Cardinals. They're 2-9, probably one of the worst teams in the league. They just cut two of their starters today. Their starting right tackle and the starting cornerback. 2 weeks in a row, they've cut their starting cornerbacks. And they're cutting players that do not perform or either are not giving the effort or whatever it is. That sets a tone right there. We set the tone earlier, a few weeks ago when we traded Clinton Dix and Ty Montgomery.
I'll tell you what, in hindsight, that trade was fantastic.
Right.
When I first saw it, I was like, what the hell? It was it was highway robbery for them to get a 4th-round pick. He's terrible.
And that's a guaranteed 4th-round pick. So wherever the Washington Redskins fall in the record column, we're going to get that 4th-round pick.
He is freaking terrible.
And here's the deal. If we would have let him walk at the end of the year, you get compensatory picks for free agent losses. But that compensatory pick does not take into effect, in this case, this example, that compensatory pick would not take into effect until 2020. So, and it's all based off of playing and statistical and also playoff recognition and the statistical analysis from the playoffs. So would we receive anything for that? I mean, I don't know where he's going to end up going, but you have a guarantee of a 4th-round pick next year.
That was highway robbery by Goody. Good job, bud.
Right. So, that was a good move because it got rid of a guy who just obviously didn't want to be here. But also we got a guaranteed pick in return. Now, hopefully we can just pick somebody with that pick that will make a damn difference.
Yeah, they got a lot of interesting things going on next. I mean, Nick Perry, they put on IR and he's due some bonus. They need to shed him. They need to shed Matthews. They need to shed Cobb. There's going to be a lot of different stuff going on as I look at it.
Well, I know let's go back to Perry. Let's touch on Perry for a little bit because that's an interesting little tidbit as well. They put him on IR. He has 3 years left on his contract that he signed last year. He got an $18.5 million signing bonus. So in essence, what a signing bonus is, it's a check. It's guaranteed money that's off the books. So they wrote that check to him. They gave it to him. But when a team does not honor the contract, and in this case, if they were to release him this off season, there are 2 contingencies that can take into effect. One, they could release him before the 3rd calendar day of the new NFL year, because he is due a $4.8 million roster bonus. So if they cut him previous to that roster bonus is given to him, what happens then is the full remainder of his signing bonus accelerates to next year's cap, which in this case would be roughly $11 million. And that would count against the cap. That'd be a huge hit. So
he's not on this team, though.
He's not on this team. And
I'm sorry. You're going to have to eat that.
Well, and here's the second contingency. What they call a post June 1st designation, and what that means is the transaction doesn't take into place until after June 1st, but you actually reap some benefits from that, and you get to spread out that salary cap or that signing bonus over the remainder of his contract, which would have been 3 years. So you take that $11 million and you divide it by 3, and that's pretty much balanced out on each year of the next 3 years of the cap. But where they get the benefit is his base salary, which is $5.2 million roughly, that's wiped off the books, and then his roster bonus of $4.8 million is wiped off the books. So you essentially get over $10 million of cap relief this year. Let me phrase this: the 2 year or the 3 years that he has remaining on his contract, his signing bonus would not affect the salary cap this year. It would affect the next 2 years, the remainder, which is roughly $4 million per year. That would be in dead money. So they take the $11 million cap benefit this year and spread it out over the next 2 years. That would be the logical and most reasonable way to handle this, because right now they can do it, they can manage it. If they were to cut him this year, it would have been astronomically hurtful to the cap situation.
Yeah, that might go down as one of Ted's worst contracts, draft picks / extensions. It was was a waste. But
it was a waste. But I'm going to stick up for the guy because he was drafted to play a position that he had no business playing.
Yep, I agree with that. You know who disappeared this game? Our boy Sackrell. Where did he go?
And that's why I think we need to temper our expectations and our excitement for him. Because right now we saw, 3 sacks in the last game and then absolutely nothing this game. The one thing I did see him do a lot more this game was coming off the rush and covering. They were playing
that too.
They were playing a lot of zone coverage, and he was part of the underneath zone coverage. So he wasn't rushing the passer as much as he was against Seattle, and that could contribute to his lack of production per se in this game.
I think Mike Daniels being out hurt too. Obviously, he disrupts the middle, and man, I mean, that defense. The defense is. They're one injury away from giving me a call, and I'm having to go to Shopko and grab a uniform and get in there on that defense. They got so many guys that are out there, nuts.
Right, and the problem that I have too is you have a stud on that defensive line in Kenny Clark, and he's getting no help. He is double teamed.
He was
every single play.
He was from Daniels, but
right. But I mean, on a consistent basis, he was seeing 2 blockers on himself. Last night it was on every single play, literally. And
he was
that
being held a lot.
He was, but he was still beating double teams last night.
And then if he's getting double teamed, someone's got to win on one-on-one, and nobody could.
And that's where we're hurting. We don't have, and the same thing goes for the offense. When a team like last night, I mean, Devontae Adams started the game out real strong, and then the defense really, you have to give Minnesota credit. They came out in the second half, made some great adjustments, and they pretty much said that Adams wasn't going to beat them anymore.
Adams should have had 3 TDs.
He should have, and that's another thing that Aaron didn't do well last night.
Adams is, again, I will eat crow as much because you guys, how much I did. That boy you think he's a top 5 receiver? I mean, he's incredible.
Well, the statistics are saying he is. He is
shifty as hell. I mean, he is putting some moves on some of these guys.
Right, and remember Xavier Rhodes, who he was going up against last night, is a Pro Bowl and All-Pro caliber cornerback. He's a perennial All-Pro Pro Bowler. And he was beating him on a consistent.
Although, did you see that first catch? He put his foot out of bounds on that third down.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen.
That was like the microcosm of the whole damn year.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Jesus. But yeah, I saw like I said, I didn't see the fourth quarter, but I saw some highlights in that pass where he juked the hell out of Rhodes, and then he went in the end zone and Rodgers overthrew him. It's like making that shit in his sleep. Here's something going back to Rodgers. It hasn't been talked about, but I really wonder. I mean, are his mechanics or any of that? Is he suffering from any of that because he has a plate and 13 screws in his throwing shoulder collarbone?
It's really hard.
Is his throwing arm and his just mechanics and all that? They may never be the same because he had a huge fracture of his right collarbone and they have all these plates and stuff in there. Nobody's talking about that. I'm just curious.
And I think there's justification into that claim. It's one of 2 things. It's either discomfort or he has a mind block that's, because when you have a traumatic injury like that, the biggest hurdle is the mind. Mm-hmm. Getting over that because your mind is almost telling your body to kind of hold back. So is his mind kind of telling him to not throw the ball?
He's like chucking these sidearm throws and going off his back foot and trying to fall away from things to keep
horrible
hitting him and just stuff you used to never see. And Bob, I think I showed you guys or sent you some of the article. Bob McGinn wrote something about Rodgers over, I think it was past 50 games. He's like 28, 29, and 1.
Mm-hmm.
Or the past, not 50, but something like that. Very mediocre. Well, I shouldn't say mediocre, but very average. And not the all-world player that's where the narrative with Rodgers is just, it's very interesting. He's got all the talent in the world to play in his day, and he can dominate, but there's something where I don't know. I mean, maybe he had his run. maybe as I'm thinking might have been 2010 to 2014. And, it's not like he's been bad since then, but that was his peak. And I don't know.
There's an obvious talent gap as well. I mean, we've talked about this. Ted Thompson has just decimated this team. And I don't think he has the consistent wide receiver presence that he's had in years past. And
that's where I just don't know. Like I said, is Rodgers just so good and, he's got so much shit around him, or, is he, you know what I mean? Like that question I asked earlier, what is it? Is it somewhere in between? Maybe it is.
It's a multitude of things. There's nothing that you can absolutely pinpoint and say it's the exact cause on what.
When you get outplayed by fucking Kirk Cousins, I mean, Kirk Cousins outplayed the hell out of him. It's like he doubled him up on everything, Now it's just statistics, but 3 touchdowns. You had like 350 yards passing. Rodgers had like 200 yards passing and a touchdown. I mean, come on. This is Kirk Cousins, He's getting outplayed by inferior quarterbacks, and it's happening more often than not.
That's just the tale of his year. And it's also, it should be a wake-up call to him, I hope, because I think he's been on high. He's been sitting on the mountain for so long that he's the best player. And this year he's been taken down. I
don't think it's just this year. I think it's, now I'll say that quarterback, my memory's coming back much, much better now, but that quarterback run, that run he went on, we said, I think we can run the table. And then he threw that pass to Cook in the Cowboy game. To get to the NFC Championship. That was some of the most impressive. That run he did go on was like some of the best quarterback play you've ever seen. I mean, I went back and looked at some of those highlights just to kind of refresh my memory. And it was like no one's ever been out of their mind as much as he was on that. But I don't know.
But he believed that he could do it. Right now, he does not believe he can do it. I mean, last night, the press conference after the game, I don't remember who asked him the question, but, can you run the table? And he's just like, well, we're 4-6. I mean,
you got to win a fucking game on the road.
You got to win a freaking game on the road. And Rob Demovsky called him out on that last week.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
I love that because somebody that held him accountable, Yeah,
and was it Rodgers like, come on, Rob, how am I supposed to answer that? Yeah,
right.
He did. And then Demovsky said, well, you can't win on the road. It's like, if you are gonna quote run the table, you have to win on the road because you ain't winning the division. You ain't getting buys.
Right.
So, yeah, that's astonishing. They haven't won a freaking game on the road. Oh.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Last 2 games are Chicago and the Jets. So, I mean,
this is interesting. This stat I saw. It's like one of these cherry pick stats where it's kind of weird, but Rodgers in his career is 0-37 when heading into the fourth quarter against teams with a winning record down by it, if he's losing.
Is there a point spread to that?
No. If he's just down by 1 or 50 points or whatever going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
0-37. That's woo. I mean, it's one of those cherry pick stats, but you look at it, you're like, what?
Yeah, but stats do tell stories sometimes. But
stats are for losers.
Stats are not for losers, but I think in the past we haven't had a defense that could rescue us from any fire. So, I don't know without going back and nitpicking every single one. My guess would be the defense did not contribute and help out. I don't think a lot of it had to do with Aaron Rodgers per se. This year is the one year that we will remember that his performance or his lack of excellence contributed to a lackluster and substandard year.
Yeah, I agree.
I put a Sports Illustrated link in the little chat.
Okay.
The conference chat. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I
missed it.
Yeah, and I mean there's a lot there to digest to skim it now, but basically it's parroting everything that you guys are saying.
The narrative about Rodgers, you mean, or?
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers is, if there were stats to keep on missed opportunity throws and all sorts of things like that, where he's getting free pass and it's sort of unexplainable. He has some natural physical talent, but he doesn't have the regularity of Drew Brees or Tom Brady. And they
I know what you're talking about. Yep. I know that article. Bob McGinn actually had something about that too, where he interviewed the anonymous scout, and they said his attention to detail is horrible. Rodgers said he used to be impeccable with his footwork and all that. And he goes, he has no attention to detail. He's just going out there, whatever.
This is the part that really struck me, because it says, to television viewers, Rodgers runs around because his O-line breaks down, or because presumably receivers aren't getting open, and they're not getting open because the scheme isn't helping them. Sometimes that's the case, but just as often the glitches aren't coming from everyone around the quarterback, but from the quarterback himself. And I'm seeing that more and more. So,
yeah, he's the golden boy kind of narrative. I think is starting to wear off. But if anything, more than it's obviously McCarthy he gone. His last chance to have any chance to stay with the Packers, I think it would have been slim to none, even if you beat the Vikings and 1 out or whatever, but he's gone.
And I think there's a lot of people out there talking that why don't they just get rid of him now?
Packers don't do that.
Well, the Packers don't do that, but I can go back to history and prove to you that ridding yourself of a coach in the middle of a year is more detrimental to the team, because the team relishes security. They want to know that they're actually being led by somebody that's going to be there the year after year after year. And that's why New England has great success. Part of the reason why they have great success is they have security there. This year, this team doesn't have security, especially now they don't know, and that's a huge deal to players. So, getting rid of a coach in the middle of the year doesn't make any sense. I've heard people talk about they should just tank the rest of the year and get draft picks. So you want to get rid of McCarthy because we're losing, but then you want us to lose. How that is asinine to even say that. I mean, and I get why people are saying it, because they want a good pick. But you know what? We've picked in the top 10 before. AJ Hawk was not a top 5 pick like we drafted him to be. Terrell Buckley was a bust. There's multiple times that we've been in the top 5 and have not turned out. Tony Mandrich being one of the biggest busts of all time. So just being in the top.
It's no sure thing. No.
So people need to temper those frustrations. I get people are very irritated. I am too. But we just need to ride this year out, get done with it. They will clean house after the year is over. There will be a new coaching staff here next year. And most likely there's going to be a new roster turnover as well. So it's going to be a brand new team. And we have to be optimistic to that. That's one of my positivity points tonight is.
Okay, but I got to rain on that because so,
before you can maybe get in on it. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's where this article, I don't know, it's great because it says a lot of things. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But then, look at it from this angle. And it says this is where McCarthy's getting victimized. And he's not victimized, okay?
Victimized?
I get that. But I mean, they're basically saying that Rodgers is put up on a pedestal and these are all true things. And it's multiple things, right? But okay, so we replace some players, we replace the coaching staff. And does that just embolden bad behavior? I just, because he's going to get a free pass next year because it's going to be new players, new coach. And so Rodgers gets a free pass. And I feel like, I don't know. I don't see sunshine at the end of this. I feel like this is the end.
Interesting.
And we're 5 years away from anything good happening.
Yeah, this is going to be the biggest, upheaval since 2005 when they canned Sherman and brought in Thompson and did all that stuff.
Right.
And like I said, the season, it's playing out even more like that than I thought. Even the record wise, it's.
I don't know. I don't follow college football very much, so I don't know if there's good candidates there. I know that people say college football coaches, especially right away, can't handle it in the NFL. So I don't know who you replace him with. And it'll be sad if he goes somewhere else and excels, McCarthy, and then we flounder. And I can see that happening. that happening.
Yeah, to your point, it's what's the biggest problem right now? Is it McCarthy? Is it Rodgers? Is it injuries? Is it the roster? I think it is kind of a lot of those different things. I mean, if it turns out, to your point, Elliot, if say they let him go when he goes to Cleveland and frickin' turns him around in 1 year, you're going to be like, what is this all about? That to me, that would speak in that type of scenario. It would speak more to the talent that he's been given. I don't think that'd be Rodgers undermining him, but yeah, I mean, those are just, I guess, chances you have to take. But Packers are just structure-wise, the offense, the defense, they're just very conservative by nature. They run. I mean, everybody keeps saying, we know they run a vanilla offense, but it's been successful in the past. Well, that ship has sailed. That I think it's plain as day. You can run that quote simple offense if you have the horses, Rodgers and the horses. If you don't have the horses, you're not going to run that simple offense. And so, I don't think they've done anything to update or change. I mean, he said, I'm going to come and take a scrub brush. What was it? A freaking toothbrush? I mean, what changed? And what's very, I don't want to go on a tangent, but have you ever seen more weird titles like Cooks in the Kitchen? They got passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator, head coach, running game coordinator, wide receivers. What the hell is all this?
Yeah,
that makes no sense to me. Passing game coordinator? Okay. I don't know if other teams do that, but when I heard about all this, I'm like, bringing back Philbin, I hate to say it, but that move almost struck me as just kind of like a good old boy move,
Well, it was a comfort move. I mean, McCarthy knows that there was a fire starting, and the only way that, I mean, just think about it. Anything in life, what do you go towards when you go through a little trouble? You go to your comfort zone, and bringing guys back like Philbin is a comfort zone. It was not like this, this grand old dessert. It was just comfort. That's all it was.
Yeah, and they try to play it off as something else, but
and I think we touched about. I don't know if I want to jump ahead to this, but potential coaches.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see a lot of ties to college coaches out there. The Packers over the years, especially with the current state of the team, they have never gone to the college ranks to hire their head coach. So my personal opinion is they're going to stick within the NFL pedigree.
They're going to be pretty conservative, I think. I don't see them going out there and hiring some 35-year-old, up and comer, even if he's in the NFL, let alone college. They're a conservative organization by nature. Hell, maybe they'll prove us wrong, but I just don't see it.
If they really wanted to shock the world, they would go after Lincoln Riley, head coach from Oklahoma. And he's in the same vein as kind of like a Sean McVay, an offensive guru, very spontaneous. NFL teams go to him for advice and to roll off ideas off him. That would be a real shiny, fancy move. I don't know if it necessarily fit the Packers mold. The Packers mold is going to be somebody like a Bruce Arians or possibly a Josh Daniels. Or even a John DeFilippo, who's the offensive coordinator at Minnesota. An interesting name that I saw today, and I don't think it'll ever happen because he doesn't have the experience, but it'd be a tie back to the Vince Lombardi days. Joe Lombardi, who's the New Orleans quarterback coach and the grandson of Vince Lombardi. Now, wouldn't that
would be such a Packer move?
That's why when I saw that, I was like, that is the move the Packers would want to make just because the name, Yeah. I mean, Elliot Wolf was brought here because of the name, with tied back to Ron Wolf. So does that ring a bell? I don't know. I don't think he has the resume to do it. He's been an offensive coordinator in Detroit, and he did not do well there. He was let go for Jim Bob Cooter, which is a great name, by the way.
Oh, fantastic name.
But I mean, there's a couple other names out there that I think we should pay attention to. Titans, the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur. He worked as McVay's offensive coordinator last year. He's worked with both McVay and Kyle Shanahan. He's a young offensive mind. There's a lot of talk about him being a hot commodity this offseason because, everybody goes with the trend. And the trend right now is to pull from.
Oh, it's a copycat league, baby.
You got that right. It's a McVay Peyton thing now. People are going to start pulling people from those two teams because they're a hot commodity. Also, their tight end coach, Shane Waldron, is their pass game coordinator as well. He's a high up-and-comer young guy. And as well as Zach Taylor, who's the Rams offensive coordinator. And even though he doesn't really coordinate the offense, McVay does. He's 32 years old. He was the interim offensive coordinator for Miami in the second half of 2015. So he does have some pedigree to his name. But those would be names that would pop out to me as potential candidates for the Packers, as well as a few others here that I'm not going to go and name off. But the candidate list this offseason will not be grand. It will not be, just this smorgasbord of great, proven talent out there. It's going to be a lot of unknowns. And that's the most concerning part to me is the unknown. But we don't know what the unknown is unless we get there. And we're there, Yeah.
It's interesting. I think I brought this up last podcast, but going back to the Saints. So they had 3 straight losing seasons, 7-9. And they have, Drew Brees is he's 40. He's like 5 years older than Rodgers, I want to say, or he's right around there. And so what they were doing then is almost what could be happening to the Packers now. But the Packers there's no way they'd hang on to a coach with 3 straight losing seasons. I just don't see it. But the Saints did. And they had some great draft. I mean, that's what did it. They shed some, they had to do kind of some redo on some other stuff, but they had a great draft. They got Kamara and who else? But that's kind of one of those. And McVay, or excuse me, God, I forgot his freaking name now. Sean Payton and Drew Brees. They look like guys who really get along, and they're all about each other. I mean, McCarthy and Rodgers look like they couldn't even stand to be in the same room right now. So what I'm kind of getting at there is, that's one of those instances of patience, that actually worked out well. They even kept around Brees. They kept around Peyton, and they seem to be even better for it now. But they did go through 3 straight losing seasons. You know what I mean? I just think that's very interesting.
Right.
And I mean, that's being, I just full disclosure, I suck at remembering even simple words. My short-term memory is absolutely horrendous. But I think it's just interesting that happened. And I mean, obviously, it's coming to fruition now. Now you have to have a good draft, but they have some free agents in there too. And I mean, it's interesting how that came around.
Right. That's a good point. It's a very good point.
So I don't see, again, that may be an anomaly or just something outside of what we got. I see the problems with the Packers they seem more systemic of the whole damn thing, with I don't know enough about the Saints or what happened there, but I just do know I was like, wow, they stuck with him for 3 straight losing seasons. Hey, that's something.
I just feel this fear and dread is coming over my whole body. Just feeling the whole Brett Favre thing just repeating history, the whole thing. We're gonna go through a couple of coaches, and then
Rodgers is going to request to get out and all that. You mean?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, because at some point the excuses have to stop.
Okay, so it may not just be ugly like that. You're just saying. Like where
we're gonna go into it we're gonna go into a dark couple of years, and there's gonna be I don't know who we blame.
The tail is kind of wagging the dog, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think back like, okay, who did Brett Favre get along with? Did he get along with the coaches? I don't think he did.
I mean, I
think he was calling the shots,
buddy.
Right, yeah.
But yeah,
it just didn't work out. Rodgers, when you got your quarterback coaching.
Rodgers, what's a weird dynamic? Rodgers and McCarthy. I mean, I would say for at least 3 or 4 years, if not more, they have been, not exactly glowing at each other. Now, McCarthy always sticks up for his players. He's never said anything disparaging of Rodgers, but it's just, I brought up the thing about Drew Brees and Peyton. Sean Payton. I mean, they're like buddy. They're always doing this, they're always doing that, and they're always seen together. Rodgers and McCarthy. Whew, it's just very interesting. Total opposite.
Yeah, and I think that's why, you're not going to get rid of Rodgers. You have to start somewhere. We talked about all these conclusions here that of what this offseason could lead to. A lot of uncertainties, and uncertainties are always going to bring uncomfort. A non-comfort to everybody's comfortness. Because everybody expects a nice warm fuzzy blanket, and it's always not going to be a warm fuzzy blanket.
What was Rodgers' extension like? What does it go to?
20. If I do the math in my head, 2023.
So will he be 40? Ish, 40, 41?
40-ish, yeah, 40, 41.
40 or 41, okay. I mean, what's interesting, too, is, he's obviously in phenomenal shape, but he's had some injuries. But you look at a guy like Drew Brees, you look at a guy like Tom Brady, if you really take care of yourself and do all, and you can play, into your 40s, that's where it could get very interesting. Or maybe, God forbid, maybe we're just starting to see the decline of Rodgers. But who the hell knows?
Well, we'll see. I'm not.
He does not have. I'll make it clear. I'm not saying Rodgers is the big problem here, and everybo's missing the point or anything, because it is a lot of different things. He does not have much talent around him on either side of the ball. I will make it clear on that. He doesn't. And that Ted screwed that up, and but
doesn't he? I mean, he doesn't. He was given plenty of time last night by the offensive line. He has Aaron Jones and Adams on the field, and I'm sure Jimmy Graham was open more than the two passes that he was given. I don't know. I mean, I was kind of feeling that way, especially after the last couple of games. And then reading this article, I'm like, maybe we're just slamming on McCarthy a little.
Well, that's not McCarthy. That's more on personnel. Ted Thompson.
But I think that offensively, I don't know. I mean, the personnel is mostly fine.
When you look at, here's the thing with play calling too. When you look at McCarthy, is not imaginative with play calling. Let's call it what it is. He's not. I mean, sometimes he'll throw in some little wrinkles here and there, but he's not. When we were playing the Patriots, Jesus fucking Christ, did you see all the innovative play calling they did? They had 2 flea flickers. They had an end around. I mean, they threw the kitchen sink at us. I mean, McCarthy has never ran those plays once in his career, and they ran 3 of them in one game.
We had a jet sweep last night. What are you talking about?
Nice. But you know what I mean? I remember watching the New England game going, I mean, they were doing a flea flicker against the Packers. Did they need to do that? No, but they fucking did it.
Okay. I'm not comparing McCarthy to the best coach that's probably ever coached the game, right? But he's also not the worst.
Mm-mm.
So
no, you're right.
You're right. He's not the worst. He's not the worst. So that's why there's this it is a whole confluence of stuff going on there. But you talk to, I guarantee this, you talk to scouts, tons of other NFL people, whatever, and I bet you they would say Packers have a bottom 5 roster in the league. Wolf Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I
would agree.
I mean, oh boy, we didn't even get into special teams. The Packers, you know what they should do? They should just close up the team, just not have it anymore. That's what I do. I would just go to the league and be like, look, we tried this. This shit ain't working. We're going to close up shop. We're just going to be offensive defense. I have never seen. It's like, it is just like clockwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Horrible penalties, blocking, fumbles. Oh, God almighty. It's a sign of a poorly coached team.
Okay, so Elliot cut me off before when I was starting to bring out some positivity into this episode.
Yes, please do.
I want to continue this because it's important. I think we need to embrace the negatives and the positives from this, and there are positives. I mean, not necessarily this year, but I'm going to fall under the Ted Thompson adage of, next year and the year after, whatever. But the positives from this year, I think that we can ascertain is there's a core group of players. I'm going to name them off the top of my head. Kenny Clark, Blake Martinez, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, David Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley, and Mike Daniels. You have a core group of guys there that can be the core of this team for the future. Not one of them has shown any lack of effort. Not one of them has succumbed to the losing ways in the past few years. So those are backbone. Those are guys that you want to lead your team, and they need to take the leadership of the team. And I think that's a positive step. Number two, the rookie class. This year's rookie class has shown a decent amount of promise that we can be optimistic. You're going to have your typical growing pains with rookies, just like anybody else. But, what Marquez Valdes-Scantling has shown, what Economius St. Brown has shown, what Jair Alexander
What happened to MVS? He was coming on, and then I think the league kind of figured him out.
No, I mean, every rookie kind of in the second half, they kind of they win off. But watching him last night, and I'm going to watch the game a second time and watch it a little bit more in depth. But from what I saw last night, the route tree with him was way too obvious, and it was consistent, and they were just able to cover it. This draft class, mentioning those four players, J.K. Scott, the other guy, the punter, and Josh Jackson and Oren Burks have been very up and down. They have not been consistent, but the talent is there. And I think the biggest disappointments are Jamon Moore and Cole Madison. The incognito offensive lineman from Washington State. I still don't know what his deal is, what's happened to him, if he's okay. I hope he's okay, but we spent a 4th round draft pick in this guy, and he hasn't even been here for 1 hour. So that's concerning. But we move on and we progress. This off season, I think we've all touched this. It's going to be. I personally believe it's going to be a very big off season in many ways. But the other thing that could really help and kind of lift this team up is we're going to be flush with cap space. Currently, as we sit, we're right around $42 million in cap space next year. That's without the Nick Perry release. That's without possibly other players like Tramon Williams being let go. There's money to be had there. We're going to be, in Packer terms, we're going to be pretty flush with a lot of cap space to go out there and be big players in free agency and sign a few players here and there. The fourth point I want to make is the draft capital is solid. I've ripped on the Packers for trading out of their 14th pick down to the 27th pick with New Orleans and trading back up to get that 1st round draft pick. But the way things are playing out right now, they're the only team in the whole league that has 2 1st round draft picks next year. Their pick is going to probably be somewhere in the top 20, and then the pick from New Orleans is going to be somewhere in the later end of the 1st round. So we get the best of both worlds. We hopefully get a good draft pick in with ours and get a good player there, and then that later 1st round draft pick could be really interesting. I firmly believe the Packers sooner or later are going to draft that quarterback of the future. I hope it's not next year, but that pick in the 1st round from New Orleans could be that kind of a guy. We have 10 total picks next year, which is good. We got that one from Washington, a 4th rounder. We got a 6th rounder for Brett Hundley, who we traded out to Seattle. So we are, of our 10 picks, 6 of them are in the top 4 rounds, and that's promising. So we should, as long as we draft well there, we should be able to get some solid players in return and hopefully some difference makers. Compensatory picks is another thing to think about too. We didn't really lose anybody this offseason worthy of compensatory picks. The only free agents that would be possible would be Morgan Burnett, Richard Rodgers, Joe Thomas, and Jordy Nelson would not be eligible because we cut him. You only get a compensatory pick if the player leaves via his own power and signs with a new team, and you're an unrestricted free agent. So Jordy Nelson would not cut that. So are we going to get compensatory picks from those 3 players that I mentioned? Most likely, maybe one low 6th, 7th rounder, for Morgan Burnett, but he's been hurt the whole damn year out in Pittsburgh. So, we're not going to get any compensatory picks there. So this offseason, we have the ammunition to do a lot to this team. It's just a matter of whether Mark Murphy says, yes, let's go ahead and do it, and whether he gives Gute the full authority to make roster moves and decisions that could really parlay this team to a positive 2019 season. We don't know, but it's all there for the picking.
I forgot about Murphy. Eesh. I don't want him in charge of all this crap, but this is what we get.
Well, I think with him in charge, we have the concern that Elliott has that, we're going to still, stand pat. Because we believe in that. We believe in trust and comfort, but the comfort has been exterminated. It's gone. It should be, I hope that Murphy sees that. I hope that Russ Ball sees that. I hope Gute sees that. I mean, Gute's little parlays into the roster here and there would tell me that he does not have full confidence in what this team has on the field.
He's like basically throwing shade at Ted's roster this year. But I'll say this. This going back to the structure of the Packers, you think Murphy did. The fact that Murphy doesn't think the way he structured this stuff is an issue in of itself. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep, that's all it needs to be said.
Period. End of story. No.
Yep. Well, we got an upcoming game against Arizona at Lambeau. Do you guys feel confident that we can win this one?
They could lose every game. I mean, they should beat them. But shit, remember when San Francisco came in? They're supposed to roll them, and they barely beat them.
Right.
So, and that was early in the year when they were quote unquote clicking more or whatever. I don't know, and it depends. I mean, it depends on the demeanor of the team. I mean, the team basically knows that the season's over. There's going to be some guys that are playing hard no matter what, because that's just who they are and what they do. But, if they lose this game, it's plain as day to know that locker room, it's not just about playoffs and all that. That locker room is mush.
Right. There should be no excuse for them to. I mean, I'm not a person to say that there's guaranteed victories, but this is about as close as victory.
That's what they said about the 49ers. I'm telling you.
Right.
And remember, that guy wasn't that guy like a 4th string quarterback?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on Arizona's quarterback too, but
I was talking about 49ers one.
Oh, I know, and the Arizona has a rookie quarterback too.
Yeah. I don't know. We should win. We should still win. I mean, I know we're all doom and gloom, but this is winnable. I mean, under better circumstances, better attitude. I think the attitude was the whole reason we lost this Vikings game. Not so much talent, not so much scheme, mostly just bad attitude. And I don't think that bad attitude is enough to make us lose against Arizona.
I would agree with that. I mean, you look at the major. What's interesting too in this past game with the Vikings. I mean, McCarthy shit the bed again on timeouts. It just never ends. And
this was the worst example of that. I think.
And Rodgers, I think he collected a delay of game, didn't he? I don't know if he got had to waste a timeout, but he got a delay of game.
No, they call it timeout because they were having problems spotting the ball. And the only reason that they could actually challenge anything on that play, because I think McCarthy wanted to challenge something, but the only way that they could was to call a timeout there.
What did you think about that fourth down play when they did run Aaron Jones up the gut? They only had to get like an inch. So in that instance, I'm kind of like, they could have done a QB sneak. That's why I don't know why they didn't do that.
I don't know why they're so they're so against quarterback sneaks, because
Rodgers is a
every team in the league does.
I don't know if they don't want concussions, they don't want this, they don't want that. Who the hell knows? But I mean, I looked at when they showed the overhead, the all-22 after he didn't get it, and they showed the blocking scheme. I mean, nobody even blocked Harrison Smith.
Right.
Nobody touched him.
Right. Execution. The play call I didn't particularly care for, but you have to execute the play no matter what. And if we block on that play, we get a first down. It's the same as the safety in Los Angeles when we got Aaron Jones, and it's pretty much the most identical play as we called against the Rams, but again, that play was horrible execution and blocking. This game too. I mean, Harrison Smith had whatever angle he wanted to the ball carrier. That's inexcusable when you're going for a short yardage to convert situation. Inexcusable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could it be tied that we don't have a fullback? Most likely the fullback would have filled that.
Yeah, what's up with that? I thought McCarthy would keep like 3 fullbacks.
Yeah, at least.
Why don't we have any fullbacks? What's up with that? I never even thought about that.
That's the scrub rush.
Oh, that's great. There you go. What was the guy's name? Ripkowski? Ripkowski. Yeah. We looked at the scrub brush. We were throwing darts at the board, and you're out of here, buddy. I never thought of that, though, because McCarthy would sometimes do 2 fullbacks.
Yeah.
And you have a Kuhn and Ripkowski, I think.
Yep. And then Ripkowski and Carriage. So yeah, they always had one fullback on the roster.
Ripkowski was a draft pick from a couple of years ago, wasn't he?
6th round draft pick from Oklahoma.
Oh, so they just dumped him. He wasn't that good, or I can't remember.
I wouldn't say he wasn't good. I think that's just the scrub rush mentality that Mike McCarthy was thinking about the whole season. Get rid of the fullback because the game has progressed from a fullback being used anymore.
Yeah, but on the special team, Zook is still throwing offensive linemen back there. Remember, the only team in the league that did that, and the guy fumbled it. Remember that? He took it and he fumbled it, and he hurt himself. Oh
my God!
It was like the triple threat right there. God. Yeah.
No, there should be no excuse to losing this game because against Arizona, I'm talking about the Arizona's offense is dead last in passing, receiving, first downs, rushing, and points scored. So there's no reason they should even be able to beat us. No reason.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm on Twitter here going through some stats. Packers 3rd down sacks. They're number 1 on 3rd down sacks in terms of how many times they get sacked. Shocker there, huh?
Right.
If you get Packers in 3rd and short, it's a sack. It's almost like it's automatic. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know what to say about that. I really don't.
They're just not stout up front. They just don't have.
I look at it too, and it's like
they don't have the bullying running back to do that.
But why can't on say it's like 3rd and 4? You're telling me you don't have a single play in the book that could be get the ball out hitter to a guy?
Right. That's
not one play.
It's ridiculous, and that's not all about time up front. No.
But you also have to execute the call too. That's what we keep on going back and we keep on beating a dead horse here. It's a multitude of things that are dragging this team down.
That's true.
It's true.
And it sucks. It truly does. Because I'm one of those people that always wants to find a reason, that always wants to try to be the problem solver. And I can't pinpoint it. And I don't think anybody truly can.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep. Well, I think we hit on everything we need to hit on that stuff, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do, right?
I'm contemplating in my brain if I leave the dead air in there now.
Why the hell not? I'm looking.
That's what we could call the episode, Dead Air.
Boom. There you go.
That's pretty good. See, there you go. Nice.
All right. I think I'm gonna call it done, right?
Yeah.
It's Andy's bedtime, and
you guys. I'm staying up later all the time.
I gotta warm his milk up too. So give
you guys, I've come a long way in a few months here. When I first got out, I was taking 3 naps a day and going to bed at 7:00.
I think you have plenty of people telling you all sorts of good things. I find it my personal responsibility to just find the one bad thing to knock your balls on. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I generally do go to bed pretty early. That is true. I will say this. And honest question. What time do you guys typically wake up?
6:30.
Oh no, never. No, like 8.
Okay. Yeah, I'm 6 or 6:30 every day. No later than
Dang.
6:30. So that'll do it. That'll get
Oh
you
yeah,
tired.
no, absolutely, yeah. And
I know.
I'd be looking to pack it in around 8:30, 9 o'clock then too. If I wake up that early every day.
Oh, I hear you. But I can make fun of myself. I can take
It's
it.
not-
I can dish and take it.
So can we.
It's all good. I think otherwise we could
Nice.
talk all night. I got to blame it on something.
Nice. Alrighty. Cool.
So did you guys give your Go Pack goes? You're messing up the system.
How about no pack? No. That's
Ouch.
what's the please pack? Please. I'm just trying to think of a different chant.
Please pack, please.
I don't know. I don't even know where that came from. But
That's good, though.
Uncle pack, uncle. No more. No mas pack. No mas. It's brutal to watch now. So. All right, but in all seriousness, Go Pack Go. We love the team. I love this team, and there are brighter days ahead of us. We just don't know how far ahead of us.
True that. Well, we got lots of episodes to contemplate that.
This is true.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack Go. See ya.
Go, Pat, go.
Podcast.
I know, right?